When we think of the Wild West, we picture cowboys, gunfights, and dusty saloons. But beneath this myth lies a darker, often untold history. It's a story of survival, pain, and incredible resilience, written by women whose voices were silenced for centuries. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the forgotten women of the American frontier, whose harrowing experiences of captivity and violence were deemed too shocking for their time. These aren't tales of fiction. They are documented accounts that newspapers once refused to print. Get ready, because the real Wild West was far more brutal than you can imagine. Let's start in 1836, at a place called Fort Parker in Texas. For the settlers inside, it was supposed to be a safe haven. But on a quiet May morning, that illusion was shattered. A massive force of several hundred Comanche, Kiowa, Caddo, and Wichita warriors descended on the fort. In the chaos that followed, several people were killed, and 5 were taken captive. Among them was a 17-year-old girl named Rachel Plummer, who was pregnant at the time. What happened next would become a chilling testament to the clash of cultures on the frontier. Rachel's story wasn't just about survival. It was about enduring the unimaginable. Over the next 21 months, she would witness horrors and suffer abuses that would break most people. But Rachel wasn't most people. She kept a secret diary, determined that her story would one day be heard. How did she survive? And what brutal truths did she record in her hidden journal? Let's find out. Rachel Plummer's life in captivity was a living nightmare. Shortly after being captured, she was separated from her young son, James, who was taken by a different band. She never saw him again. Months later, she gave birth to a second son, but the Comanches, believing the baby was a burden, brutally killed him in front of her. Rachel was traded from one owner to another, forced into grueling labor, and subjected to constant violence. She described being whipped, starved, and beaten for the slightest perceived mistake. Despite the relentless trauma, she held on to a sliver of hope. She secretly documented her experiences on scraps of paper, creating a record of her torment. After nearly 2 years, a trader managed to ransom her. She was finally free, but the scars, both physical and emotional, ran deep. She wrote a book about her ordeal, one of the first and most graphic captivity narratives ever published. Tragically, Rachel died just a year after her rescue, weakened by her captivity. But her words lived on, providing a raw, unfiltered glimpse into a world that polite society wanted to ignore. Her story is heartbreaking, but it's crucial to understanding the true cost of frontier expansion. Rachel Plummer's experience was horrific, but she wasn't alone. Another woman who went through something similar was Matilda Locke. Captured by the Comanches at age 13, she endured 2 years of horrific abuse. When she was finally brought to San Antonio in 1844, a prisoner exchange, the Texans were appalled by her condition. Her body was covered in bruises and sores, and her nose was burned down to the cartilage. The sight of Matilda was so shocking that it directly led to the infamous Council House fight, a bloody conflict that erupted right there during the peace negotiations. The Texans, enraged by her treatment, tried to take the Comanche chiefs hostage, and the meeting turned into a massacre. Matilda's suffering had ignited a powder keg, leading to even more violence and death on both sides. It's a tragic example of how the abuse of one individual could escalate into a wider, devastating conflict. But perhaps no story of captivity is as famous or as visually striking as that of Olive Oatman. Her ordeal began with a massacre and ended with a permanent, shocking mark of her time in the desert. In 1851, the Oatman family was traveling west, searching for a new life, when their journey came to a tragic end. Along the Gila River in Arizona, they were attacked by a Native American tribe, believed to be the Yup. Most of the family was killed on the spot, but 2 of the children, 13-year-old Olive and her younger sister Marianne, were taken captive. Their brother Lorenzo was left for dead, but miraculously survived. For Olive and Marianne, a new life of servitude began. After a year with their captors, the girls were traded to the Mojave people. Life with the Mojave was different. They weren't treated as slaves, but were integrated into the tribe. It was here that both girls received the distinctive blue chin tattoos that were a custom for members of the Mojave. But this new life was still fraught with danger. A severe drought hit the region, leading to a devastating famine. Tragically, little Marianne, along with many Mojave, starved to death. Olive survived, but she was now completely alone. For 5 years, she lived as a Mojave, her old life a distant memory. The world had forgotten her, but a rumor was about to reach a nearby fort. A rumor of a white woman with a tattooed face living among the natives. The rescue of Olive Oatman is as dramatic as her capture. After 5 years, rumors of her existence finally reached the authorities at Fort Yuma. Negotiations began, and the Mojave, facing threats from the U.S. military, eventually agreed to release her. In 1856, Olive was escorted back to American society. She was a sensation. People were fascinated and horrified by her story, and most of all, by the striking blue tattoo on her chin. She became a celebrity, a living symbol of the savage frontier. A pastor named Royal B. Stratton wrote a best-selling book about her, A Life Among the Indians, which was filled with sensationalized and often inaccurate details designed to shock the public. Olive herself went on a lecture tour, recounting her story to captivated audiences across the country. But behind the public persona was a woman deeply traumatized by her experiences. She suffered from depression and severe headaches for the rest of her life. While the public saw her tattoo as a mark of savagery, for Olive, it was a permanent reminder of the family she lost and the world she could never fully rejoin. Finally, we come to the most haunting story of all, that of Cynthia Ann Parker. In 1836, during the very same raid on Fort Parker that saw Rachel Plummer captured, Year-old Cynthia Ann was also taken by the Comanches, but her story would unfold very differently. Unlike other captives who desperately clung to their old lives, Cynthia Ann assimilated completely. She forgot English, forgot her family, and became a Comanche in every way. She was adopted into the tribe, and when she grew up, she married a powerful war chief named Peter. They had 3 children together, including the famous Quanah Parker, who would become the last great chief of the Comanches. For 24 years, Cynthia Ann, now known as Nadua, lived as a respected wife and mother. She knew no other life. To her, the Comanches were her family, and the vast plains were her home. The white world she came from was nothing but a forgotten dream. But that world had not forgotten her. Her uncle had spent decades searching for her, and one day, he would find her. The rescue of Cynthia Ann Parker would become one of the most tragic ironies of the West. In December 1860, a group of Texas Rangers attacked a Comanche hunting camp. During the raid, they were surprised to find a woman with blue eyes and light hair among the natives. It was Cynthia Ann Parker. Despite her desperate protests in the Comanche language, she and her infant daughter, Prairie Flower, were rescued and forcibly returned to her white relatives. But this was no happy reunion. For Cynthia Ann, it was another capture. She was torn from her husband and her 2 sons, whom she would never see again. She was an outsider in a world she didn't understand, surrounded by people she didn't know. She repeatedly tried to escape and return to her Comanche family, but she was always brought back. Her grief was overwhelming. Her daughter, Prairie Flower, soon died from illness, and Cynthia Ann's spirit was completely broken. She eventually stopped eating and died of starvation and a broken heart. Her story forces us to ask a difficult question. What is risk? For Cynthia Ann Parker, being saved meant losing everything she had ever loved. Her life, caught between 2 worlds and belonging to neither, is a powerful and heartbreaking legacy of the American West. These stories are a vital part of our history, reminding us that behind the legends of cowboys and outlaws are the silent, resilient voices of women who endured the unimaginable. Thank you for watching, and if you found this story compelling, please like and subscribe for more hidden histories.